Hello, my name is Brayden Oski.
And I'm Austin Morales, and you're watching the Inner Gamer On.
And today we'll be talking about CD Projekt Red apologizing again for the rough launch of Cyberpunk 2077, announcing a roadmap of what's to come, some delays on some of the development that they're doing, and also an article from Jason Schreier at Bloomberg talking about some of the internal struggles that developers had and that this game actually didn't kick off until around 2016, which is not what we were told. So there's a lot to dive into here. Stay tuned and let's dig in.
And as always, if you enjoyed this content, please like, subscribe, and bang that bell, and then turn us on for all your notifications, because that's how it works now.
The big guy at CD Projekt Red, Marcin Owinski, came out and apologized, brought a video of apology in which he stated, and this is according to a PC Gamer article, both of these are actually from PC Gamer. He came out with a video acknowledging that the studio underestimated the task of bringing Cyberpunk to previous gen consoles and promised that work on the game will continue. The update addressed questions about why console review codes were distributed later, reveals a new DLC roadmap that shows that basically what's going to happen going forward is that we're going to get patch 1.1 and 1.2 very soon. Apparently 1.1 is to come out next week or two. And then 1.2 is going to come out, and there's going to be a shit ton of updates and improvements leading up to 2022. And in the middle of that, there's going to be free DLC first, and then a free next-gen console update coming sometime after that. So they're pushing the PS5 updates until way later, which really sucks. And the DLCs are going to come before the next-gen updates arrive. He said that the rough state of the game has forced them to reconsider its short-term DLC plans. The promise for real DLC is still coming, but the priority has been shifted to fix the game first. And the next-gen console update, as we mentioned, will be pushed back, aiming for the second half of the year, and they'll reveal more when they have more to share.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting. So, I mean, like...
Did you watch the video?
I did not actually watch it.
Apologizing? Okay.
Yeah, I thought about it, but I was like, I'm just going to read the article instead and see how it all goes. But
get the high points.
Yeah. But apparently it was just unfortunate because it's like been there, done that. Like they've already done this kind of apology thing, and then here they are trying again, and it's I mean, it sucks. And then
on the one hand, in the video, the guy is admitting that it was the higher ups or idea to release it now. Yeah. And they took full responsibility for it. And I was like, well, that's a good thing. But I watched Angry Joe talk about it, and he said that they're basically on the same level as Bethesda now, and like all these other AAA companies. Like they've went from the gold standard to not that at all. And it's so kind of sad to see that. I know. And I'm just thinking about it, like 8 years in development. Like I'm trying to get in their mindset, like why would they needed to release it now? And on one end, maybe it's a money issue, which I have no idea. And maybe they have plenty of money to keep going forward. And I understand at some point you just got to release the game. But I did think they took on too much that they could chew. And this is the consequences of it. And, maybe the right strategy was to release it now, even in a broken state. But at the same time, it's just like, I think if they just would have stopped, not released it to last gen consoles, it would have saved a big majority of the blowback that they have faced.
I think so. And it's interesting because like they were talking a lot about, I mean, and they've known for a while that they wanted to, like the plan was to release this right before the next gen consoles came out so that they could release it on current gen consoles and get sales there, and then have another release later on to get more sales when they brought out like the PS5 updates and stuff like that, and everybody was getting the new consoles and stuff like that, which makes sense. I mean that's what GTA's done, with their system. It's like they brought it out on last gen consoles and they brought out an update a year later that caused more people to go out and buy it and and pick it up. But I'm like,
the thing with those games is that they usually make it for console versions, and then they have like obviously they get the update for the updated consoles, and then they get the PC port later. This is a company that focuses on that best graphics you can even imagine. They try to push for that fidelity super, super high, and then they try to port it to consoles, which is obviously not probably the best thing in the world to do.
Yeah, for sure. Where we are now is Jason Schreier, formerly from Kotaku, has dropped an article as of yesterday, which is January 15th, with a report, as he does, digging deeper into these stories and situations. And he's working for Bloomberg now, so this is where the article came out on, is on Bloomberg. And basically did a big analysis into interviewing people from developers at CD Projekt Red, who most of which obviously wanted to remain anonymous, and said that what the public or what the higher ups are saying to the public isn't entirely accurate or true. So in the video, one of the things that Owinski mentioned was the game did not meet the standard quality we wanted it to meet. I and the leadership team are deeply sorry for this. And then they go on talking about all the things that they're working on and trying to fix and stuff like that. What has come out from various staff, which apparently he interviewed more than 20 current and former CD Projekt Red staff about this game, is that there was a development process marred by unchecked ambition, poor planning, and technical shortcomings. Employees discussing the game's creation for the first time described a company that focused on marketing at the expense of development and an unrealistic timeline that pressured some into working extensive overtime long before the final push. They said that the Polish company will spend the next few months working on fixes to instead of planning future expansions. First update will be released, et cetera, in the weeks after January starts out. One of the things in here that I thought was really interesting is that, well, for example, Adrian, a former audio engineer for CD Projekt Red, said one of his colleagues was asked during a meeting how the company thought it'd be able to pull off a technically more challenging project in the same time frame as The Witcher. Someone answered, "We'll figure it out along the way." Sounds like BioWare. For years, CD Projekt Red has thrived on that mentality, but this time the company wasn't able to pull it off. He said, "I knew it wasn't going to go well. I just didn't know how disastrous it would be." Part of the disappointment is that the amount of time that people spent waiting for this game. So the Cyberpunk was announced in 2012, but supposedly, according to insider information, the company was still mainly focused on its last title, and full development of this game didn't actually start until late 2016. So despite the fact that those trailers came out in 2016 was when CD Projekt Red hit the reset button, and Adam Badowski took over as a director, demanding overhauls to Cyberpunk's gameplay and story. For the next year, everything was changing, including fundamental elements like the gameplay perspective. Top staff who had worked on The Witcher 3 had strong opinions about how Cyberpunk should be made, which clashed with Badowski and led to the eventual departure of several top developers. Much of CD Projekt's focus, according to several people who worked on Cyberpunk, was on impressing the outside world, going back to marketing. A slice of gameplay was showcased at E3, the industry's main trade event in 2018. It showed the main character embarking on a mission, giving players a grand tour of the seedy, crime-ridden city. Fans and journalists were wowed at the ambition and everything. What they didn't know was that demo was almost entirely fake. CD Projekt hadn't yet finalized and coded the underlying gameplay systems, which is why so many features such as car ambushes were missing from the final product. Developers said that it felt like the demo was a waste of months that should have gone towards making the game.
They pulled a fucking Halo. They pulled a Halo 2. That whole thing that they showed at E3, they got everyone hyped for Halo 2, that little gameplay teaser. Yeah. That was in there as in a form of what we saw, but not exactly. They are no longer the gold standard. It is definite now. This is the stamp of approval or disapproval, and it's really sad to see. There's a time and place for everything, for marketing and all this stuff, but I mean, you don't even have a fucking game. I mean, if that was to get investors, maybe that was successful. They didn't do right by the fans, and that's what they were known for. And now it's just, I'm glad there's going to be free DLC, but I'm curious, what the next game's going to be like. Like, people are going to be hyped, but not as hyped. And I'm now even less hyped to finish this game than I was before. But I don't know, it just leaves a sour taste in my mouth. This is why? And it just sucks because it's the higher ups who are making these decisions again and making the devs look really bad. And they're all in the same boat, They swim and sink together.
It's so strange to me because this is a company that for the longest time throughout the development, I mean, Cyberpunk 2077 for a large part of situation was very quiet, and their marketing was non-existent in this game.
Yeah.
And then when they did get to the marketing and start doing it, which only happened 2 years ago, within the last 2 years, they just drop subtle little things, and we're we're going to get this game done, and it'll be done when it's done. It's not going to fall. I mean, they had this messaging and this persona of we are for the fans always. And then how does this end up happening? How do they message this for so long and then come out and basically do a complete 180 and just I mean, basically, it was literally a marketing campaign, and they weren't being honest. That was what it comes down to, and that's what.
That's why I'm upset.
Is unfortunate. It was like I never played The Witcher 3, and I know everybody was like obsessed with it and loved it, but this one I was like so hyped for. I mean, I still enjoyed this game. I think there's a lot of good that happened here, but it's just I would love to see what happened if they were to give it the time that it did deserve and not pull this.
Here, I mean, this literally like every other game studio. They took a 180. They had to go back and do all these changes. And it's like, what the fuck happened? Like at least Nintendo came out and did one of the great things was with Metroid Prime. It was like, hey, it didn't work out with that studio. We're starting over from scratch. It's going to be a lot longer than we anticipated. Yeah, I mean, something like that. It gives people. Yeah. And if you gave this game another 2 years, it would have been fine. You're not losing hype for this game. You know what I mean?
On the note of that, I wanted to mention that so there was a lot of talk on like crunch and overtime and stuff like that. The audio engineer, for example, said that there were many times he would crunch up to 13 hours a day. A little bit over that was his record probably, but he would do 5 days a week working like that. At E3 in June 2019, CD Projekt announced the game would come out April 16th of 2020. Obviously, everybody's really excited. They had a date, but the members inside the team would scratch their heads. There was even people that were apparently internally making memes about like, just like how silly and stuff this was that this was coming out. One person said that they thought the date was a joke. Based on the progress, they expected the game to be ready in 2022 back in June 2019. So they expected it, which to me makes sense based on where the game is at right now. It's like I could very easily see them spend another year on this game and then it would be really, really polished and great. Which maybe it will still happen, but what they did instead was when they saw that they needed to reach this date, they started canceling features and scaling down the size of Cyberpunk's Metropolis. But the team's growth hampered some departments accordingly to this, because Witcher 3 was made with about 240 staff. Cyberpunk shows about 500 developers, but then COVID hit, which didn't help a lot of situations. So then they got segmented out, but CD Projekt Red apparently wasn't accustomed to such a large size, so people working on the game had teams that felt siloed and unorganized because I guess they didn't have a good growth plan in place to allow that scale. And then of course games like Red Dead Redemption, stuff like that, have teams of like thousands probably, that work on stuff. I mean, it's a big difference. It's like they're trying to make a Red Dead Redemption 2 style game with like 500 people, whereas Red Dead Redemption had like over 1,000 people working on that game. So I guess apparently some engineers realized that Cyberpunk was too complex of a game to run well on the 7-year-old consoles with its city full of bustling crowds and hulking buildings. They said management dismissed their concerns, citing their success in pulling off The Witcher 3 on last-gen consoles. And then staff had to complete games from their homes without access to the office's console development kits. Most developers would play builds off their game on the home computers. So it wasn't clear how it was running off a PS4 and Xbox One. And then there became some communication issues and stuff like that. And as it grew closer to the launch date, everyone at the studio knew that the game was in a rough shape and needed more time. Several people close to the project said that chunks of dialogue were missing. Some actions didn't work properly. When management announced the game went gold, there were still major bugs being discovered. I hope that they can come back. It just sounds like it sounds like they can't just fix this in like a couple months. It's like they need the next year to hunker down and just like,
I feel like
fix it.
Two, honestly. Like these 2 patches are just like, okay, it might make the game playable for some people. And this is the crazy part. Like all the stuff people have been saying about the PC version outside of the console version, I have not experienced game-breaking bugs to the point where I can't play this game. Right. And that's why I've given it such high praise. And I find that crazy because all the games that have the game-breaking bugs, I never experience them, but the games that are supposed to be fine, I experience all the bugs. I don't understand it
What's wrong with you, man?
I don't know. It's my computer. It likes to be opposites. It's like, how are you going to get the next gen update by the end of the year? I just don't see that possible. I feel like there are core features and issues in this game that need to be addressed, and I just don't see how you finish that in a year.
Well, personally, I think I feel like the next gen update wouldn't be as hard.
And you have DLCs
as like the DLC part of it, because like the next gen update, I mean, it runs great on PC. All you got to do is adapt it to work on PS5, which is a much stronger system, and then also Xbox Series X. So like, I feel like that part shouldn't be harder than just making it work on those consoles. But the thing that they need to figure out is like, how do they make it work on the old consoles? I mean, that's where the problem lies, and I feel like they're giving themselves like 2 or 3 months to do that, as opposed to what they really need is a year or more to fix that old stuff. Because I mean, I'm sure it probably runs good. I still haven't played the copy that I got from my PS5, but I'm sure it runs way better. And then just the next gen just needs to incorporate ray tracing and all the features that they already have on PC. So I would hope that would be a lot easier for them to manage, But
the cool part, I mean, that's what I like about this game is that you can pick the 3 different factions and have, some differences in those stories, which I don't know how significant they are, but I'm excited to try it out and see what happens.
Yeah. I've heard some people say that they're not as big of a change. Like the replayability that they were hoping would be there isn't as big as they thought. But at the same time, I still think it'd be fun and interesting to go back and do those other life paths just to play through the game again. I mean, as new updates come out, I feel like it'd be worth that experience. I mean, obviously I got to finish it first, but
yeah. At the same time, like, when I walk around the city or go through the city and go through the cutscenes, like as much as we say that, like, or know that this game is broken and missing a lot of stuff, like everything that is there is still freaking impressive that they're able to pull what they have off right now. Like, so much time and effort has gone into this game. It's still ridiculous. Like, the amount of stuff in here. Anyway.
I mean, it's a cool game. I mean, it definitely has a lot of nice. I mean, the story is really interesting. The graphics. I mean, when they work and you can turn up the volume on the graphics, turn up the level of the detail on the graphics, like it looks really awesome. But it just sucks that it has this historical these issues, like with everything. It's just like, man, CD Projekt Red just like was such a top player in the industry, and now it's just like, here we are.